Hello everyone, I'm Laura Rogers and welcome to SharePoint Power Hour. I have Joelle Farley here with me as well on audio today. And welcome to Power Hour. If you've never seen one before, this is all about things that you can do out of the box with SharePoint without having to do anything complicated like write code. Of course, I say that, and today we're going to be digging into some kind of codey type stuff, but I'm not a programmer, so as I figured this stuff out, I kind of explained it to you as I figured it out. But this is our show just all about all the various things we can do in SharePoint, SharePoint Online, Office 365 without having to be a programmer. It's mostly business user type topics. So today's topic is going to be dealing with list item attachments in a SharePoint Designer workflow. This is one of those things that for years, it's one of those questions that people have asked multiple times that people have wanted to know how to do. How can you do XYZ with an attachment to a list item in a SharePoint Designer workflow or any kind of workflow? And my answer has always just been you can't. You can't do anything with attachments. You can't get to the attachments from the workflow. So I had a requirement recently where basically they didn't want the person to have to do multiple clicks to get to the attachment. So when someone adds an attachment to a list item, they want an email to go out to certain people and just to let them know, and also to just give them a link to the attachments that were added, the attachment that was added. In this case, they were just going to add one at a time, but it gives the person a hyperlink in their workflow email to directly open the attachment, but which saves several clicks. So it saves them having to click to go open the item, having to go click down to the attachment, having to open it, or it's like 3 or 4 clicks. And it saves in some confusion too, because a lot of times we have all these people that are new to SharePoint. They might not necessarily know what or where that is or what it means. So it seems like it's helpful. And so as I show you how I figured this out, I'm going to show you I'll just show you kind of what I used it for, but you might have various uses for it. So as we dig through it, we're going to kind of look at various uses that things you could possibly do with this functionality. Joelle's been having fun with some web services in JSON lately too, right?
Oh yeah.
So this is it's gonna be the web service call, and first of all, I'll demo to you what it looks like and what the end result is, and then we'll talk about go in there, dig into SharePoint Designer, and show you this complicated mess that I figured out. And then of course, like we always have in Power Hour, we have our Slack channel, IW Mentor, which is our SharePoint training company, iwmentor.slack.com. And Slack is not a Microsoft thing, or it's not related to the YouTube video. It's not related to Microsoft or Office 365. It's just the platform that we use for having all of our discussions. In order to get into the Slack discussion, click the link in the description of this video. And I have to manually invite you to the channel. And I've noticed that a lot of people's domains block emails from Slack. So if you never get the invitation email from me, sometimes it might take me 1 or 2 days because I have to go manually just get around to letting everybody in. But if you don't ever get the invitation at all, then you might want to just use a different email address, or check your spam filter. So, all right, let's go ahead and I'll show you the end result. Let me share my screen. All right, this is my test site. I've got a SharePoint list called maintenance requests. So maybe if you have maintenance requests, you have people saying, like the light above my desk is broken, come fix it. Maybe they need to add an attachment that has a picture of that thing. So I'm going to just go to an existing item. Just because I'm lazy, it's got all the stuff filled out. I'm going to an existing item, and I'm going to add an attachment to it. So I've got this workflow that's going to run every time something is created or edited. So when I add my attachment, now this attachments column this is just the out-of-the-box attachments column on your list. It's just tells you whether there's an attachment or not. It's basically a yes or no Boolean, and it shows as a little paper clip, and that's been around in SharePoint forever. So that attachments column is nothing new. But what I'm doing here is showing you a way that you can show a count of the attachments. That's all what I'll build. And I'll show you, this is the workflow. This column called Get List Attachments, that's just the workflow that I built. So I can go look at the workflow, some of the logging I've put in here, and it's telling me just some logging about what the name, that URL to that file is. There's just kind of some rough, ugly information, and then the number as it counts up. So let me go, I'll add another one to that and just see what that looks like real quick. And this doesn't have to be in the modern look or anything. This is just any SharePoint. This is SharePoint 2013, SharePoint 2016, SharePoint Online. This is just using a SharePoint Designer workflow. So the workflow is running now, and notice that my count of attachments went up, and I've got this just kind of text here that's giving me the URLs to these, and that's the information that I needed in my workflow to be able to send an email or whatever I want to do with it. So notice that as I'm doing these, I'm sending myself, and this is what I use for testing, I'm sending myself all this ugly garbledygook, and that's what I use to extract the attachments out of it. Okay. Now that I've showed you the end results, and again, don't just take it for what my end result is. Once you can see how to tap into this stuff, maybe you'll come up with something creative. We already have somebody asking how you could take that attachment and put it in a library or put it in an email attachment or something like that. Well, the emails themselves in SharePoint Designer workflows just simply don't have a capability of having an attachment. There is no setting for attachments in the email. So to send anything in a SharePoint Designer workflow as attachments, not going to be possible. But we'll talk about at the end kind of the possibilities, but I'll go ahead and send you real quick this reference to this SharePoint REST service for the web service calls. I'll put that in the chat window. It is, I'll just put it in the general. And so the Power Hour channel in the Slack channel is where we have all our questions and discussions. In general is where we have, I'll put links and stuff to reference. It's basically, it's on the Office Dev Center, and it's called Get to Know the SharePoint REST Service. Let's see, let's pull up SharePoint Designer. This was fun. It was a lot of math. Okay. So the first thing that you have to do in here is you have to be able to use this, the web service call is what I'm doing. So the general idea is that I'm going to do a web service call to just the thing that I'm editing. So really I'm doing a web service call to the whole list, but I'm just going to get this one item that I'm on. So a lot of the times we do these web service calls and we go like iterate through multiple items and stuff like that. I really just want to get that raw data about this one item. But before I can use this web service call, I need to do this build a dictionary thing. I wrote a blog post on how to, it's called loop through tasks in SharePoint, and it's got all this sort of syntax for all this stuff written down everywhere. And I even referenced that old blog post of mine to be able to, every time I build these. First of all, I just want to check, and this is just that out of the box field that says whether the thing has attachments or not. So it's just a Boolean, and that's just going to exist in your list. So I just look to see if it's got attachments at all, because if it doesn't have any attachments, I don't really care. I don't need to do all this. The first thing that I'm doing is I'm calling this web service, and let's see if, I wonder if I could zoom in on that somehow. Let's see, zoom. I wonder where it puts the magnifier. Oh, there it is. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Okay. So there is, it's getting the current, whatever the current site is, it's getting the current list, it's just getting it by title. And again, some of this syntax is written down in that blog post of mine. So what I'm doing here though is there's this sort of little, I'm just going to call it a section in here. It's kind of like a little sub list, like a little, see, again, I'm not a developer, so I don't know the terminology, but it's like another little sub list inside of this JSON stuff. sorry for the devs that are watching. And I'm expanding out this attachment files thing. So this expand thing, this expand command, whenever you're using JSON, this web service call can be used with people fields, can be used with lookup fields, manage metadata fields. So anytime you have any of those complex fields where you need to get more information out of it, like with a people field, if you wanted to get that person's manager name, their first name, last name, email address, specific things like that, you would expand. So again, lots of people have written blog posts about doing an expand, but that is the JSON syntax. So I want to get the attachment files. I'm just doing select attachment files because that's really the only thing I need out of here, and I need the ID of itself really. And I'm expanding it, and the filter that I'm doing is I just want the current item. I don't want to go get all the items in the whole list right now. The only thing I want is where ID equals the current item ID. But as you can see, if I didn't do a filter, it would return everything in the whole list and all of their attachments. FYI. Okay, so you're still there, Joelle?
Yep.
Okay. So that's what that one is doing. And an important thing to note when you're dealing with these web service calls is that you have to put in the request headers, you have to put your variable dictionary. I wrote that in that blog post too. So kind of all this little nitty-gritty small details are written out there and step by step. So let me get rid of this zoom here. There we go. And then what I want to do is I want to get that attachment files data out of that big long just blob of information right here. And I'm just going to output to a variable called attachment files. That variable is, let's see, attachment files is a dictionary because it's going to be a kind of a list of stuff. And then this is where the tricky kind of math part came into play. So let me show you in my email what this spits out. And so what I have in my email is, this is going to be really helpful when you're figuring your way through this JSON web service call stuff, is to just, again, I think I've mentioned this before, I had a whole other power hour where I just introduced this web services, this concept and some basics. So refer to that too for a lot of this information if you want to really dig in. This is, instead of trying to log this, if I try to log all this information, it will give me an error, because when you try and log something to the history list in your SharePoint Designer workflow, and the thing you're trying to log has more than 255 characters, the whole workflow is going to error out. So I just send it to myself in an email. So this is just this raw set of results, basically that variable that has that whole dictionary of information. This is the raw results that it spits back. So from looking at this, that's how I was able to figure out what I need and where it is in here. I tried to do, so the concept when you have multiple items in a list in here with the web service call is you can loop through them, and you can do this, everything kind of has an ID, and you can just basically reference each item as it loops through all the list items, and it just knows how to, it separates item from item, and it has a count. But I noticed with the list item attachments, I wasn't able to loop through the attachments themselves, like it didn't, like that, the syntax of just trying to count them because they're not stored in here, I guess, the same way as all separate list items are. Okay, so I guess Joelle just let me know if anybody's asking any questions. So what it gives me is this, I've got this test file here. So you can see attachment files, test file.pdf. So the test file.pdf, that's really what I need because the whole rest of it's just going to be the same for all of them. The whole rest of the path is just going to be site/list/ name of the list / I don't know, like the item ID / the name of the file. So the rest of the syntax up to you get to the attachment name is going to be the same. So this name of this file is really what I wanted to get out of here. So this, you can see this is this results thing right here. And it helps to actually pull this into Notepad++ to be able to kind of separate all this out and be able to tell what you're doing. So this is, you can see I've got test file up here and I've got validation.png down here. Those are my two different files. So you can see those sort of little chunks are what I have. So what I did here is I was trying to do, I needed to do math because I needed to find the location of just getting the name of that file within all this other crap and be able to just extract that one file name. Of course, if you're a developer and you're watching this and you think I did it a really stupid way and there was an easier way, let me know. But so what I did was I found the word decoded URL here. And see, this gives me like list / maintenance / attachment / the ID of it / the name of the file. So I thought that would be a good thing to find. So I'm getting the location of where that is. Then I'm getting the server relative URL because that's afterwards. So I kind of want to get in between here and here. And then I'm, that's supposed to say decoded, not decided. And then I'm counting like the in-between, and then so really it just took me a couple of hours, maybe 3 or 4 hours to try and get this math right to be able to spit out just this, look, there you go. There's the file. Fun stuff, huh? It's pretty nerdy, right? I was pretty excited once I figured it out. So let's go look at what I did in SharePoint Designer. Can you guys see that? Can you see that okay, Joelle?
Yep.
Okay, so what I did was I'm just going to get, now this is kind of a bad name for my variable because I started off by just counting to skip the whole first beginning of the chunk of information in all that text we were just looking at. And I started by counting up 32 characters and then I just changed it to 100. I just didn't change the name of my variable. So I'm starting at 100. So this string that I'm getting is extract substring of, let's see. Yeah, extract substring of string from index of string. Extract substring from index of string. So it's going to start at 100 and give me just all the rest of that text. And then I need to have this variable of what is an empty string, and I need to have set my loop to yes because I want to be able to loop through and find each attachment. So as long as the variable called loop equals yes, it's just going to keep looping through. So I'll show you later on when I change it to no, because basically the idea here is that I want to, and let me switch my, just the overarching concept is that as I loop, and this is just a bunch of text, it's just this big blob of text. So as I loop and find each item and extract that information out about what that file name is, then I'm going to delete that information out of that big blob of text. So my blob of text is getting smaller and smaller as I'm looping through each thing and getting that information out and then getting rid of it. And that's how I'm going, from thing to thing to thing. So it's just getting the first thing, deleting the thing that I just got, getting the next thing, and then basically just you keep doing that until there are no more things. Okay. That sounded very Dr. Seussy. So I'm finding, so this is just a thing called find. So right here, find substring in string. So you can use find substring in string to go, I need to just go find this verbiage, find decoded URL inside of this result that I've got. And then it's going to give me a number. So that's that number that I was spitting out. So the find just gives you back a number as to where it found that thing, that text. Then I'm going to go find server relative path. It's going to spit that out. I'm going to go find server relative URL. And then it's going to spit that out too. So I've just got to keep track of what I'm calling everything in here. And then I'm just getting all those things from this same variable. And then I'm subtracting server relative path. No, let's go back to that email. Where did that go? I'm subtracting server relative path minus decoded URL, and it's going to be the difference. So server relative path is, I just saw it. I should just pull that into Notepad++. Let's see, where did it go? Server relative path, and each of these is going to have a server relative path minus decoded URL. So I just get like this, and then it just gives me what's in between there. Okay, because the file name could be any length, right? So that's why I need to go find something in the beginning and find something in the end and do, and then subtract to get the difference. And then I'm going to subtract 17 from it because I noticed that when and I'm going to go ahead and just pull up Notepad. Notepad++, so we can see it better. Okay, do a new and paste that in there so it can make more sense. Copy. And then in Notepad++, you just have to tell it what your language is. And then, so usually when I'm trying to just kind of figure my way through here, I just take everything that's where these little brackets start and just start splitting it up and just putting carriage returns in there so I can see what's going on. So this is what I had done in here to be able to kind of figure my way around it. And I'm teaching you all this so you guys, if you ever need to do this, you don't have to rely on just the step-by-step instructions that I did. You'll be able to tell exactly how I did it, and you'll be able to go in here and get what you need out of here and do what you need to do. That's the ID. That's the first chunk right there, and this is the second chunk right here. Those are the two attachments. So I'm getting this thing that's in between here. And I'm subtracting 17, so it gives you basically the beginning of whatever that number is. So basically I just determined that I had to subtract 17 to be able to get to right here after this quotation mark. Does that make sense? Joelle, you can be my voice of sanity to see if I'm like what I'm describing makes sense as I describe it. Can you imagine how complicated this would be to write in a blog post? So decoded URL plus 13. So this is just me like from trial and error, just like counting the pieces of text in there and then extracting that file name out of there. So that's what all these little steps are. And then I'm getting out of this not first 32, which is the worst name ever for a variable. And I'm starting at decode plus 20, which is when I added 20 to something, for when I subtract for this many characters, output to what? So this little copy from item right here, what action is that? That is extract substring of length from index with length. So I need to go into a string of characters. I need to go a specific place in those characters, and I need to go get this exact length of data out of there. So that's what I did. So let me move this up out of the way. So I went in there and and then basically spits out the file URL. So it's like basically the file URL that I need to be able to go, send in an email or whatever. And then I just set the variable file link to, I've got current site URL /list/ whatever the list name is that I'm on. These are some workflow context things. So within your workflow context, you can get things like your list name and your site, site URL and stuff like that. So I'm getting list name /attachment / whatever the ID of the current item is / whatever that file URL is, that, white.pdf or whatever that file was that I got. And then it's putting the variable file URL here. So all this together would be a link. This is how you construct a hyperlink, by the way, in an email. In a workflow is you have to have, or in a link, in a hyperlink field, you have to have the hyperlink itself and then a comma space, and then this is the text that you would be clicking on to click on the hyperlink. So this whole thing together can be a clickable link. So that's why I call that variable file link. Then I set variable full file to, let's see, that's probably an old, yeah. In my email, let me go look at my email again. See, full file, see, it doesn't have anything there because I just didn't, I basically changed the names of a bunch of these variables and took it out of the site that I originally built it in and put it in my own Wonderlaura site to do this mock-up. And so I just need to take this, instead of being called agenda link, it would be called file link. And notice I used as string here, so file link. Set variable full file to variable file link, and then send an email having that there. So that should work correctly with the change I just made. Okay, so what it's doing is it's getting all these numbers here, and then this results ID thing. What is this? This is basically checking, this is this first item up here. This is checking to see if this is the first, if they're, remember I said you had to loop through each one and then go delete it after you loop through it. So basically the result ID here is letting me know if this is the one item in this list of items. So if you just had one attachment, or if you had narrowed it down and gotten rid of a bunch of them and then you just had one left, then that's what your result ID is going to tell you. So if the result ID is less than 0, so it's going to be, as in it doesn't find anymore, then this means it's going to be, this is the last item out of the items that it's been looping through. Otherwise, this is where it's going to go through. You guys are very quiet. This is a boring one, I'm sorry. Otherwise, it's going to go through and it's got to take them and narrow them down and basically whittle them away from this list of things. So it's setting a variable full file to file link. It's calculating to the end of the item. It's copying to get that first whole item, which is that first, big chunk of text. And then it's replacing. So this is where I'm taking this, like this whole thing, basically this whole, whatever that first item is, and I'm replacing it with just a dot, just a period, just to get it out of there. And so that I'm outputting it to a new variable. So now this whole not first 32 thing that I was basing everything off of, now it's going to be less. Now it's going to be like, it's going to take all this and remove it, and now it's just going to be whatever this, this item or the rest of them, and then it would remove this next. So it's going to just remove them as it goes through them like that. So that's how I'm removing them all, is I'm replacing it with just a dot. So then This part is where I just added this literally right before Power Hour. This part is where I just decided maybe you'd want to see the number of attachments that we have. So then every time it goes through this loop, it's going to calculate and add on to this variable called number of attachments, and it's just going to add 1 to it. And you can, with variables, you can make a variable output to itself. So I'm adding num attachments plus 1, outputting it back to itself, num attachments. So that is possible. You don't have to create extra variables in here. So then it's just incrementing this number up. So it's looping through. So for the first attachment out of multiple attachments, it's going to do all this, and it's going to go straight to here for this else, and then it's going to do all this, and then it's going to go loop again, and then it's going to, if it's got 3 attachments, it's going to go loop through the second one and do all this, and then it's going to loop again, and then for the third and final attachment, it's going to go here, and it's going to set the variable loop to no, so that way it won't loop again. So that's how it loops through each attachment and then it just stops. So I only have it sending me the email when it goes through the last attachment. So what it's really sending me is just going to be the hyperlink to that very last one. So I'll go ahead and publish that. And hopefully I didn't accidentally change anything. I think I just I changed that one name of that variable that I was referencing. But we'll go run it again. And again, while you're building these, and I can't stress this enough, add a bunch of logging in here. So this is what I had. I had calculate this, log the thing you just calculated. Calculate this, log that number. So I was logging things in between as I built it. Or like I did, you could just email yourself the output of all those variables too. Let's go run it. I'm going to just go edit another, I'm going to go edit this one, and I'm going to add a third attachment. Notes, I don't know what that is, whatever. Okay, now I just have to wait a few seconds for the workflow to run, and it should say count attachments 3 when it finishes running. Hopefully I didn't break it. Yeah, there we go. Yay, I didn't break it. And I got my email. So here's my email, and then look, here's the full file. So this right here, this is the last one in my list of attachments, because remember I only had it emailing me after it got through the last one and then sent me just whatever it still was holding on to. So this is just going to be the last one. So I can do various things in here if I need to have a list of all the attachments, if I want to send put the value like in some other field, if I want to send the link to that attachment in the email. Now I have the ability to tap into that information and get that value and do something with it, whatever I want to do. So that is my output. So this is a perfect syntax of an output to put in a hyperlink field in SharePoint. In this case though, the only thing they wanted was, they wanted to know, they wanted just in this particular business situation, they'd only be attaching one thing. And they just wanted the one that they just attached, the most recent one, and they just wanted that to go out in an email. So in this case, I only had to put the email in that one little part of the loop. So let's go through any questions. Just let me know. Let's see. Carlos said, I believe you can take the contents of the expand contents into a separate dictionary and then access the content from a dictionary instead of substringing. Oh, genius. See, I didn't even think of that. I don't know how to do that though, Carlos. So what he's saying is I get this stuff, let's see, right here, I get attachment files, and then I would do like dictionary, build dictionary, and then I would build, I'd have to put each thing I loop, each attachment would somehow have to go in this dictionary. I don't know how to do that. That's a very cool idea though. I wish I knew more about building dictionaries. Yeah. That's what he's talking about. Maybe, Carlos, you can write a blog post about that, and we'll all go read it. You guys are so smart. See, this is the idea of just this power hour is just to give you ideas, so hopefully you can figure out some smart stuff. Another thing that somebody was asking me about was taking that attachment and putting it in a library, which I'd love to be able to do that. I think the direction you would go to be able to do that is in this the link I sent you guys in the chat window. It just had a link in there to working with folders and files with REST. And in here, I think you would have to use the post method. And post is what would, working with files by using REST. So that's get. Get is what we're doing. We're just getting information. Post, I believe, is what you would need to do to be able to actually put that file in a library, but I have no idea how that would work as far as the body of the file. See, it says files/add, and then for the URL, I would think that you could take that URL that we already obtained as far as the list attachment URL to that attached item and put that here. And then, but for the body, I don't know how it would have, I guess, contents of file. Is that supposed to just literally say contents of file? I don't know. So that would be really awesome if one of you guys figure that out. Just let me know. But that theoretically, in the method post, when they say method post, they mean you go into the web service properties, instead of get, you change it to post. So post is creating something, put is updating something, and of course delete is deleting something. And let's go ahead and talk about how we could go take that and send it as a hyperlink, or put it as a hyperlink field. So one way we can do that would be to just go to the site and create a hyperlink field. Do you notice they added a bunch of new options here? It used to just have a handful of options here where you're adding a new column, and they added, it used to say just more for everything except for like 3 things. Anyway, hyperlink, click attachment, type hyperlink. I'll just save. So now I've got a new field, and I'm going to refresh SharePoint Designer because it needs to know when I've made changes. Oh, Carlos says he's going to see if he can find an example that he's tried. That will be awesome. Okay. All right, so I'll refresh this, and now when it gets to the last item, I can set field and current item to, actually, maybe, let's see. Actually, I'm setting count attachments down here. So instead of setting count attachments separately and setting the field, I like to be more efficient, because I've noticed that when you're looking at your version history, every single separate set field value that you do sets it as a separate version in your version history, which is stupid. So I want to go ahead and I'm just going to do an update action, and that way I can just update those two fields at the exact same time. So I'm just going to update the current item, and then I'm going to set count attachments to the value of this variable number of attachments, and then I'm going to set click attachment to the value of the variable called file link. I'll do it as string. Hopefully that'll be okay. All right. Delete, publish. Joelle, do you have any business situations where you would need to have something like this? Can you think of any examples?
Yeah, I mean, I think I can. I'm trying to think of like a very, very specific one, but I know that I've had that request come up a lot for getting these getting stuff out of the attachments and into different things,
Yeah. All right, I'm going to take this one and edit it and just add, so we'll have 2 attachments, test file. And by the way, you guys are probably wondering, how could I do this with Flow instead of SharePoint Designer? Flow still doesn't recognize list item attachments. I think that's one of the things that's coming soon, but it doesn't now. All right, so Broken Chair is the one I just edited. It's got 2 attachments. I got my email, and let's see if it, oh, look at that. Click attachment, and there's the link to my file. Oh, let's see what's wrong. Is it, okay, wonderlord@shammer.com/list/maintenance request/attachments/11/white.png. So that should technically be the link to that item. Let me see. Let's go look at the email and see what look at that raw data. That looks the same. I'm actually gonna try both of them and just double check. It might have to do with just the PNG file being weird or something like that. Yeah. So the other one is called testfile.pdf. Okay, I'm gonna go paste that. Oh, no. That is, did I spell it wrong or something? Okay, I have a good idea. So when in doubt, let me close that. Let's just go open an attachment and see what it looks like, right? I'll go open this item and go click on an attachment. Testfile.pdf. Okay. Okay, so it's the ID maybe that's wrong. Okay, so that's going to be in that little path that I created in there. So this syntax though is correct. So I think this one thing is what was wrong. It was putting an 11 there and it's supposed to be 9. Very weird. All right, let's go see. That is my file link. Attachments/current item ID /file URL. Yeah, current item ID. That is weird. Let me go look at the email again. So this item that I just edited with that testfile.pdf, that is item. It's saying 11 in here, but it was saying not. Oh, maybe I added the same file to item number 9, and it's doing this efficient thing where it's putting a reference to it. I'm gonna have to dig into that because that would be really odd if it was just assuming that it's the same file just because it has the same name and it was attached to something else. Ooh. Okay, let's go see what that is. And I'm going to try like adding a completely different file name and double check that too. So I'm trying to get in the habit of using this little plus whenever I want to show, add some fields here. Except this little arrow is not the most efficient. There, whatever, okay. Save. You guys been trying to get in the habit of doing that using the new list stuff? Okay, so the ID is 11. On item 9, I added testfile.pdf2. Oh, so it's using the same file. That's weird, isn't it, Joelle?
Yeah, that is weird.
I'm going to go do a completely different file on this one. What's the chance of that? I mean, I guess in testing, of course, you're going to have the same file, but really, demo content, there. Save.
And is the dictionary set in your properties?
Yeah, by the way, that little dictionary setting that I was showing you in the web service call properties, that's really important. You have to have
Yeah.
that there or you won't have any output to your workflow.
Yeah.
Joelle learned
Specifically, if
that
you
the fun
copy.
way. What?
Yeah. I said specifically if you're copying your call to use it
Yeah.
in a different place.
Okay, so it looped through them all, and let's see.
There's
Attachments.
Eddie has a pretty interesting way that he's been doing this in the Slack channel.
Yeah. So definitely in Flow you can do attachments. So in Flow you would take you would have like the file name, file content, but in Flow you can't get to the attachment on a list item. Like you can't obtain that information.
Yeah.
So you'd have to use some weird combination of SharePoint Designer and Flow. Like SharePoint Designer would have to go get the information about the file, like the name of it and the URL, and then Flow would have to go take the file and put it in a library. That's ridiculous. Yeah, but you're right. You're right. Send an email in Flow can send file content. Yeah. Okay. So attachment /11, 20 years of research. That's the one that I just attached. So that is going to be the right URL. All right. I'm not going to get too far into the weeds on that one. Let's do the next thing, the next step I was going to do. And go ahead and go each time for each attachment it goes through to append those all together. And so maybe you'd want to have like send one big, you don't want to have to send an email for each file that it loops through, right? You want to just be able to send one email that has all the links together in like just a list of links to those files. So what we would do is that we wouldn't send an email here and also send an email here. What we do is take do a variable that's just a string that's just going to add them on to each other as it goes through each one and just append it to itself. What we have to do for that is create, so I'm going to do, let's see, set workflow variable, I'll call it file list. Don't name your variables what I named them. I'm apparently not very good at it. Set that to, I'm just going to put the word files in there so that it's got something in it. And then each time it goes through this or this, it's going to have to just take this output that it has and of what that file is and append to it. So let me see. Let me make sure it's not mail. Yeah, it's just doing it each time I edit it. It's not, okay, yeah. Okay. I'm going to set workflow variable. I'm going to set this file list variable to itself plus whatever that, let's see, itself, and then a carriage return, and then whatever the next one is, file link. It's going to be kind of ugly when I first put it together because they're all just going to be like these big ugly strings, but then we can make them look like nice URLs too. So it's going to set variable to file list, and then a carriage return, and then itself. So then it should just keep adding on, right? Seems right to you, Joelle?
Yeah.
Yeah, that. Okay.
Yeah, I can't see it yet, so it's kind of like that little.
Oh, there's a delay for you, right?
Yeah.
That's funny. Okay, I just published it, and now I go back to SharePoint. Got too many windows open. Let me close some of these stupid tabs. Okay, got the email. And what was I? Oh, you know what I did? is I set this variable file list, but I didn't do anything with it. So what good does it do for me to have a list of files if I'm not going to do anything with it? So let me take this variable file list and copy that, and I'm going to paste it to right here. And then I'm going to email myself the file list. So let me get rid of just this, all this other junk. Not all of it. I'm just going to leave some of those numbers in there, but oops. Let's see, file list. And my typo. Now, again, these aren't going to be clickable links yet, but you'll at least be able to hopefully see them all together. Eddie says it's frustrating that the attachments appear to exist on a list, but that the list doesn't appear to exist. There's some Azure functions and some with metadata. I bet they wouldn't recognize the list either. I'm not sure what you mean by the list not existing. In the context of what? All right, let's go add. This one's going to have 3 files. And it should be in my email when I get that, after it finishes looping through everything. Okay, now it has 3 attachments. It shows the number 3 correctly. Got the email. And no, there's nothing in file list at all. What? Variable file list. Ooh, interesting. Why would it not have anything in it? See, I want to log that. I don't think that would be too long to have to log that each time. Let's see. Again, if it goes over 255 characters, the whole thing's going to bomb out. So that would not be a good way to do that just in general. Set variable file list to variable file link. So I've got, let's see. There's nothing in file link yet. Let me just look at my logic here. Again, like I said, I had most of this figured out, and then for some of this, I just figured we would just like add on possible things you could do with it and figure it out on the fly. Okay, so it's got a file link before it even gets to, before it even starts doing the loop. So I could probably do, let me see, let me get rid of this file. I'm going to log that anyway, but I think this one's wrong. I'll just log what it is every single time. File list to files : file link. So basically what I'm trying to do is take every single link and list them down the page. Maybe instead of a paragraph, I could just do a semicolon for now. And that way it would have each of those just with a semicolon between them. Files is variable file link. Oh, no, it's got to be, so it's going to be variables file link before it even goes into the loop. So it's going to have a file link on it. And then after that, it's going to take whatever it already has and it's going to add to itself. So don't need to have it here. Whatever, it's not going to hurt. Okay, or maybe it will. With all that logging everywhere, it's going to help me be able to kind of narrow down where if it is kind of appending to itself and then all of a sudden it gets wiped out, it'll be able to help me narrow down. Hopefully you guys are learning some about workflow troubleshooting. Okay, that is, okay, so let's go back over here. And I'll just take another item here and just add, I'm going to try it with one item. So this one that I'm editing right now is just going to have one attachment. It would be awesome to be able to take these and just take them and put them in a library instead of in the list. I know there are definitely a lot of third-party products that do that, but to be able to have a workflow, just semi-no-code workflow, to be able to do that yourself without having to buy a third-party product, that's cool. Let me see if this click attachment thing works. Oh, no. It's got an 8 next to it. Yeah, that seems right. That's weird, though, that URL doesn't work. Maybe it needs to have a space in it for some reason. No? Everything about that looks correct. Okay, I'm not going to worry about that yet, though. Let's go look at the logging. Okay, so remember there's only one item, so it only looped one time. So it's got not logging that thing at all that I just added. Oh, see, because I'm setting it here. I'm setting file list to this, and then I'm setting file list to itself and then sending an email. So let's go, because I'm not logging it yet, because this only had one item, so it would have just gone straight to here. Let's go see what the email says. All right, so it put it in there twice. So I have it basically appending to itself one too many times. This is the story of my life, by the way. Every time I work through these SharePoint Designer workflows, I just basically spend hours, you know, troubleshooting it and outputting and then seeing what's wrong and then trying it again, and yeah, fun times. Okay, so I don't need to append to this right here because I just did it. And, okay. Let's see. So maybe that's what was wrong with it. Let's try it now with 2 attachments. Oh, I've only got 1 minute. Oh, darn. I'm still probably going to finish this and figure it out and just be able to append those things. So I'm going to spend this next minute doing that. Let's see. Eddie says, doesn't have a list of attachments. If it did, all you need to do is do get items from this list and you'd have the file names and extensions. Oh, okay. I see what he's saying, I think. Having to do with, I guess, the JSON. Yeah, because you can't just go to ID/attachments. I do have it linking in the email that I created and linking you to the item, though. It definitely works in the one that I built that sends someone an email with a link to the attachment after they after it gets attached. Okay, this is, I just edited it and republished it, and it's going to have 2. I'm going to put 2 items now. So this one's just got 1 attachment. I'll go ahead and edit this and add another one. And we'll go look at the workflow. And wait a second before it finishes. Which one's the one I just edited? ID 8, shattered window, yeah. I probably broke it this time. That would be good. That would be I don't think I broke the workflow enough today. Oh, yeah, see, invalid text value. A text field contains invalid data. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to set the value of a field to something that is too much text, or so it probably has to do with either me trying to log too much information or trying to set the value of a field now for something that's too much information or the wrong type of information. So I really just wanted to teach you guys how I was able to dig in there and how to loop through the attachments and at least count them and get that URL information. I wasn't, planning on this necessarily being like a full solution and having all these different things figured out and solved. That kind of last 10 or 15 minutes or so was me just trying to just figure out something new. So that just requires more troubleshooting. So we would just figure that out later. Appreciate you all coming. Any last questions? Just type them in the chat window. And not sure what we're doing next week. We've been just crazy busy and just kind of scrambling at the last minute to think of something to do for Power Hour. So maybe we'll do more Power Apps next week. I'm not positive right now, though. Keep going in the ideas channel in here and go ahead, and there are several in there that are pinned that we can vote for. So I appreciate you guys going and voting for things, because several people have typed things, but without more feedback and votes, then it's kind of hard to decide what to do and what to figure out there. So, all right. Thanks, everybody. Over and out.
Thanks. Have a good